Hey everyone, welcome to Birds of a Feather. Today we're upcycling these metal wall sconces with the help of some Terra Clay Paint. If you saw our last YouTube video, you would have seen that we used this Terra paint on a project that was wood. This time we're working on pieces that are metal. Now, if you're unsure about whether this is going to stick, you can always prime with something like a slick stick first and let it dry overnight, and then go in with your Terra paints. But I have seen on AJ's Facebook page that she did attempt to use this over metal quite successfully. So I'm gonna give this a go and see for myself whether it'll work on these two sconces here. Now, because I loved the combination of Lenny's Lagoon and Cerulean Blue so much on my last project, I'm gonna try it again on these metal pieces. And I'm just gonna use the two colors, possibly even three. I may just use a little bit of this Moonbeam too, but we'll see how that goes. So the brush I'm using for this project is this French tip brush, and that's because I want to be able to get into all the detail here. And in a few places it's quite tight quarters, like down around here, and just the shape of this tip will be able to get right in there. So I think it'll be a good brush to use. To start, I'm going to mist the brush with some water. Get it nice and damp. Let's just make sure I've got the Cerulean Blue here, and I do. I'm just going to use the paint that's in my lid to start. Actually, I'm also going to get, I had a paint lid. Let me just see if I can grab that. I'm just going to put a little bit of water in here and see if I can water the paint down. Let's see if we can create a little bit of a wash. I do want to see some of this metal showing through, so I think it's a good idea to thin it down. I don't want to get 100% coverage on this, so you don't have to be too thorough. And this is going to go really, really quickly, because like I said, I just want a tint of color on here. Let's just have a look at that. Make sure I've got coverage on all the areas I want. I'm really liking that. So let's just put a little bit more in here. Water it down once again. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'll just set that aside for now, and I'll finish the rest later. I just don't want to accidentally get my hand in the wet paint, so I'll finish the top of that after it's had a little bit of time to dry. Let's just get this a bit wetter. I think I'm shedding. I've got a piece of hair in there I want to get out now. That's better. Okay, so there's where we're at right now. I just got to be sure that I get underneath here before I switch back to the other one. Just move it around and eyeball it and make sure you've got coverage everywhere you want it. Okay, so I'll set that one aside. Now I'm going to bring the other one back, and I'm going to complete the inside of it here. Now this Dixie Belle French tip brush is doing an amazing job of getting right into the details here. And I've got my pieces on this Lazy Susan so that I can easily turn my work and get at all the angles here. Just going to dip in a little bit around the sides here. It can be just a little bit more solid. I don't necessarily want to see the metal showing through. Okay, I'm going to call that done. I'm going to let that dry for 2 hours, and then we're going to come back with some Lanny's Lagoon, and we're going to dry brush it over some of these details just to bring out some of the highlights. As this dries, I'm just going to finish off this second one off camera. If you want to speed the dry time so you can do your next coat, you can take a hairdryer to it, and I just like to leave it on a cold setting. I'm going to finish that off camera. It's pretty loud, but in the meantime, while that's still drying, I'll set that aside. And if you're a fan of the blog, you would have seen me do this project, oh, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 years ago. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it with the Terra Clay Paint in Moonbeam, so that instead of concrete, it actually has a bit of a white cast to it. So I'm going to go grab my Dixie Mini. Going to spray it, make sure it's damp. Make sure all the bristles are dampened. And there's Moonbeam right there. Just gonna dip into the lid. And I'm just gonna go right in and paint. I'm gonna grab it by this end so that I can paint the top of this. Let's pick it up this way. Now, because concrete is porous, this should absorb fairly well into it. Actually, it's not really concrete, it's cement. I misspoke. So let's just eyeball it and make sure I've got everything covered here. You know, I'm kind of liking the coverage that I've got right now, so I might just leave it. I'll just see how it looks when it's dry. Now, if I do accidentally get some paint on this metal here, and I want to clean it off, it'll just wash off with water because Terra Paint reactivates with water until it's sealed. So try not to overwork that. I'm going to call that done. I'm going to wash out my brush with some water and some soap. Don't forget to replace the lid. Just take a rubber mallet and tap that down. These wall sconces originally took a much smaller light bulb. We were able to purchase these cardboard adapters. There's metal on the inside, but I don't want the cardboard to show. So I've got Terra Clay Paint in Onyx, and I'm going to give that a go. I'm just going to take this one out. I'm going to set this stuff aside. I'm using my Dixie Belle artist brush here, and it's just a flat little brush. I don't need anything bigger than that for this. Just gonna see if I can get a little bit on the inside too, just in case that shows, and I'll set that aside to dry. I now have those cardboard adapters just drying on these paint pyramids here, so I'm gonna set these off to the side to dry, and now we can continue on with our sconces. So I'm just going to open up the Lanny's Lagoon. Once again, I'm using my Dixie Belle artist brush. I'm just taking some off of the lid here. Just going to add a little bit of water. Just loosen it up. Terra Clay Paint is fairly thick, and I don't want a thick coat on this. I just want to sort of like kiss over the details. So let's just lightly brush over this. I just want to highlight Now, don't overwork this, because if you do have a bit of water on your brush, there's always the danger of reactivating the paint, and that's not what we want to do here. You just want to sort of dab it off on my little palette here, this plastic lid. and I just want to lightly brush on. And that's really bringing the detail out nicely. So again, just have a light touch. And we're just lightly brushing over the high points of all this detail. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick this up, but as soon as I'm finished, I will come in for a bit of a closer look. Terra paint is not permanent until it's sealed. And to seal it, you want to use Dixie Belle's Terra Wax, or there's also a product called, I believe it's Terra Seal Matte, and that gives a beautiful matte finish, because this is a very sort of chalky, well, not chalk, it's clay, very sort of matte finish to begin with. So they provide the perfect top coat to go over it. I hope you can see some of that detail. I'm just gonna finish off on the back, which you won't be able to see. So I'm just doing more of the same here. So I think what I'm gonna do is cut it right here. I'm gonna complete the rest of this offline, and then we're just ready to go. I'm going to insert my light bulb, which is almost dry. We're going to use the adapter first. Well, that's still wet, so I can't show you, but we're just going to screw it in, and then I can put the bulb right in, and then we're going to plant this up. I'll probably, for now, just use something like an air plant. Here's a closer look with the Lenny's Lagoon, and this still is without. As you can see, it almost looks like verdigris. It's just so gorgeous. So I just have one more to go, and this is just so quick and fast. But look at the impact.
Thanks for watching. If you're interested in some of the products that we used, I'll leave links down in the description. Don't forget to subscribe.